I also want to ask you this morning whether an ex-con should be denied a council house. How would you feel about having a convicted criminal living next door to you? People in Cannock Chase who want to apply for a council house will now undergo police checks, and anyone with a serious conviction could be barred from getting somewhere to live. I wonder what you think of that. I mean, is that good? Because it would ensure that, you know, at least if you were in a council house, you didn't have to live next to an ex-con. Or does it mean that people who are finding it difficult enough to rehabilitate back into ordinary life face yet another obstacle being placed in their way? Give us a call, 08453 00 9956. Let's speak to George Adamson, who is the leader of Cannock Chase District Council. Hello, George.
Morning, Adrian. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. So just, in your own words, explain to us what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Well, this proposal is that people who apply for council properties will be subject to an automatic police check if they're likely to be offered a council property. At the moment, if someone discloses they've got a criminal record, they get a police check. This will mean everybody who's likely to get a council property will be subject to that police check.
With the aim of what?
Well, basically, we take the view that we've got a responsibility to our existing tenants, and they've got a right to enjoy their properties in peace and quiet. But as you said, when you're talking serious offences here, things like possession with intent to supply drugs or serious antisocial behaviour in recent times, in the last 5 years or so, and then every case is judged on its individual merits, so if someone can prove that they've reformed, then they can still go on the list and be considered for a property. So
but at the end of it, George, though, there will be people who are coming out of prison who you will take a view on, and who you may well say, well, no, actually, we're not going to give you a council property because you've got a criminal history.
Yeah, that is possible. Like I say, we're talking serious offences. I mean, nobody wants the neighbour from hell next door because it can make your life a misery. And like I say, we've got responsibility to our tenants. And it does sound a bit big brotherish, I know, and when I first heard this, I had my concerns about that. But we have to weigh the pros and cons as to which is the most appropriate. And a number of housing associations in the West Midlands area already do this as a matter of course. I think we're probably the first council considering doing it, but it is done by lots of other social landlords already.
So basically the novelty here is that you will do a routine police check on every council house applicant. That'll be, everybody applies a blanket police check to check if they've got a criminal record.
It'd be those who get to the top 10 who are likely to be offered a tenancy.
Yeah. Okay. Stay there, if you would, George. Let's speak to Christopher Stacey from Unlock, which is a charity dedicated to helping people who are attempting to rehabilitate themselves back into society. Hello, Christopher.
Good morning, Adrian.
Yeah, what do you make of what George is doing in Cannock Chase?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what what's actually involved in the process. To me, the idea of the police providing the council with a full list of somebody's criminal record worries me. It seriously worries me because we're meant to have processes in place to help people to rehabilitate, to reform themselves, and policies that would disclose somebody's entire criminal record would obviously be a major concern. I think we've also got to remember that when people, particularly people leaving prison, are trying to get on with their lives, they have enough barriers in their way as it is. About 30% of people released from prison have nowhere to live, and if we have councils refusing to help those people, one has to wonder where we're going to help these people, because surely we're just moving the problem elsewhere. We're not actually solving the problem, and surely we should be looking at ways of solving the problem rather than just shifting the burden onto other housing providers. And like George said, if other housing associations are doing this as well, people will literally have nowhere to go, and people who have nowhere to go, who are released from prison, are 2 to 3 times more likely to reoffend, and surely that's not what anybody wants, really.
So, Christopher, would you say then that if you come out of prison and you've served your time, you've done the crime, you've served your time, that should be the end of the matter, that you apply for a council house and you should be judged on exactly the same criteria as any other prospective council tenant?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're certainly not advocating for any preferential treatment. We're just looking for a level playing field. I think we've got to understand that perhaps people with certain very serious convictions, there may be issues that need to be considered as to how to best help them. But I don't think we should have any policies that actually exclude anybody, because, like I say, that doesn't actually solve the problem. We've got then somebody who is potentially homeless and has nowhere to go and is much more likely to reoffend as a result.
And George, aren't you pushing the problem somewhere else? As Christopher suggests, if you deny somebody a council house, well, they're going to have to live somewhere, aren't they?
Well, we're not doing a blanket exclusion. We're going to judge every case on its merit. If someone comes out of prison following whatever offence they've done, their case will be judged. Obviously, people can reform, and they should be helped. But
when you say their case will be judged, George, I mean, they've been before a judge and they've been sent to prison and they've done their time, they've paid their debt to society. Do they have any right of appeal to your judgment? Do they have the right to bring witnesses? You know, who is Cannock Chase District Council to be making these decisions?
Yeah, there is a right of appeal. If the housing department look at it and they decide that somebody isn't appropriate for that because of what they've done, and we're talking fairly recent crimes, not 8 or 9 years ago, then there is a right of appeal to an appeal committee, and obviously they can bring a social worker along, a probation officer, whoever, to support them. If they can convince either the housing department or the appeals committee that they are reforming and they will make good tenants, then that'll be fine. They be considered for housing in Cannock Chase.
And has there been a reception from people in the area, George, suggesting that they welcome this?
The comments I've had so far have been broadly in support. This went to the Housing Committee in November, and there was all-party support there for it. And all the consultation since has been in support, as I say, because we're talking individuals. Every case will be judged individually. It's not a blanket ban. That would be illegal.
No, but you will be having people that you are refusing to help. Whether you have a blanket exclusion or just case-by-case basis, you will be refusing to help people. And so there will be people as a result of your policy that will not be able to be housed by you. And so you have people who are potentially homeless. I'm really not sure how you are going to be deciding on somebody's criminal record that they are somewhat sort of a risk or unacceptable to be housed. Somebody's criminal record can be of no way relevant to somebody who has perhaps been antisocial and has, played loud music but never got convicted. I think there's an assumption in this country that the fact that somebody has got convicted means that they're somewhat a terrible person and, can never be helped, when somebody without a criminal record is a perfect tenant, which is clearly not the case. We have a legislation in this country, the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, and I'm not really sure how your policy is going to be abiding by that, because the police don't understand that legislation. I assume they will be providing your council with a full list of somebody's criminal record, and I'm not sure what your policy is regarding serious convictions. Are you going to be publishing that policy? Are you going to be saying what types of convictions you regard as being serious, what will prevent somebody from getting a council house? And if you have that policy in place, will you be making that available so that that's transparent to people who will be applying to you?
Yeah, can I just reply to that? Obviously, it will be a transparent policy. If this is approved, it'll go to Cabinet in February. If it's approved, it'll be transparent, it'll be there for anyone to see. And as I say, we're talking serious offences here, and people have got a right of appeal. And we know just because someone hasn't got a conviction doesn't make them a perfect tenant. If our existing tenants cause problems, we deal with them as well.
Yeah, but George, the state, the law of the land, will have said that these people are safe to be on the streets. I mean, we might take, issue sometimes with whether people really are safe to be allowed on the streets, but these people, by the dictates of our justice system, are fit to be free citizens once again. So you're making an extra judgment about them over and above that of the legal system.
The problem we've got is we have a responsibility to our existing tenants, and this arose from complaints we've had from our existing tenants about tackling antisocial behaviour in our estates. And
but those complaints will have no relevance to somebody's conviction, or at least in very, very rare circumstances. What you're doing is making an assumption based on somebody's criminal convictions, and what I think you should be better placed doing is actually making decisions based on risk rather than what somebody has done in the past. Perhaps look at what they may well do in the future. I think your assumption that somebody has a criminal record and therefore have to prove to you that they won't do something. I think that should be the opposite way around. Perhaps you should be the one.
Christopher, though, is there a counter-argument here? You know, the blunt truth of it is that there will be people who will say, hear to what George Adamson is doing in Cannock Chase. Let's bring it into councils all across Birmingham and the Black Country, because you know what? I don't want to live next to an ex-con.
I'm sure there is, but I think as councils there is a wider responsibility than just what the majority of the population think. We have a responsibility as a country, as a state, to marginalised groups, to people who are perhaps less popular than others, but we have to look at ways of actually helping them rather than excluding them. And although it's claimed that there isn't any blanket exclusions to this, there will be exclusions for individual situations, and I'm still not clear. George hasn't explained how those people who will be refused a council house under this policy, how those people will be helped.